Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. TheSketchMonkey here. I'm here at Foundation Kia outside of Denver to have a look at this beautiful minivan today. This is a 2023 Kia Carnival EX. If I was in the market for a minivan, this would actually be very high up on the list just because of this Kia sharpness we have in this design. So we're gonna have a look at the front end, the side, the rear, interior, and then we're gonna take this for a drive. Before we jump into the design of the Kia Carnival, let's have a look at some of the basic spec and tech here. You have a 3.8 liter V6 putting out 291 horsepower, 262 pound-feet of torque connected to an 8-speed automatic. It comes in front-wheel drive only. 0 to 60 miles per hour is done in 7 seconds. Fuel economy sits at around 19 city, 26 highway. And if you want this Kia Carnival, it's gonna cost you around $34,000. Personally, I think Kia is on a roll when it comes to design right now. Their entire lineup just looks so fresh and clean. They have a bunch of different variations of their identity. For example, the Sportage looking very much smoother than the Sorento, for example, and the Carnival right here. What I love about this front end is specifically these daytime running lights. It looks like an EKG curve almost, similar to what they have in the K5. You have the indicator light integrated right here underneath this daytime running, like super interesting integration. You have part of the headlight here, and then you have the high beams sitting inside of the grille. This being the EX trim, we don't have that beautiful two-tone grille that we have in the top of the line trim for the Carnival, but I still think that this grille looks very good. And always when I see a new Kia, the first thing I do is try to identify where the tiger nose is in the car. So you can clearly see the tiger nose here with this dip in the hood up top, and then you have this little upswing here in the bottom, creating this typical tiger nose design front end for Kia, which they've been using since I think 2008 or something like that. In the lower part, we have a pretty decent looking bumper with the silver trim continuing here. These are not functional air vents, but you do have functional air slots right here on the side. So a couple of things that I would like to change here. I do love this chamfer that we have going on here and this line housing the headlights and the daytime run lights. But what I would like to do is to just have this extend straight and going down like this, sort of like we have on the, I think it's Sorento, that has a line going like this, and then move down the indicator light underneath it and extend the headlights. So we have this headlight unit, the high beams, which sits right here, have them be positioned right next to the other piece of the headlights. And I think that would maybe make it look a little bit more traditional, but at the same time it would kind of take away from the uniqueness of the Kia Carnival. It's just a design change that I would like to see what it will look like. Coming around to the side view of the Carnival, I like these proportions that we have here. Very boxy design, but Kia still decided to add some fun for the designers with this big diamond pattern. And this is a piece that Kia has in every single vehicle on the lineup right now. They have some sort of silver piece. In some trim specifications this is black, but they have this type of graphics in this area in every single Kia that's out right now, which I think is pretty cool. Talking about these wheels, these are 19-inch wheels, and I think 19-inch for a minivan like this, it looks really good. I do like the design that we have on here with the black contrasting with the silver outside on the faces of the spokes, and we also have 235mm wide tires all around, so they're pretty beefy when it comes to width. And 19s, they fill out the wheelhouses just like they should on a minivan. One detail I really like about the lines and the proportions of the Carnival is this corner up here, the A-pillar corner. You have the A-pillar being blacked out, and then you have a very sharp corner that I think suits these proportions because everything in this design is pretty boxy, and inside of this box you have some fun graphics going on, but it doesn't ruin the interior space and what a minivan is supposed to be, having a lot of interior space. Down here you have a line that cuts through the body and eats up some of the volume, creating a bit lower volumes for this car and doesn't make it look too high. You also have this, I wouldn't call this a side skirt, but this trim piece down here also reducing some of this weight of the height of the side view of the Carnival. Coming around to the rear end of the Carnival, what makes a minivan different from an SUV, there is of course the proportions, but then there is a load height for the trunk. So a minivan is supposed to be as practical as possible, and this is that as well. You can see just how low this level sits. So it's very easy to load stuff, and if you want, you can even pull up these third row seats here and creates a pretty comfortable seat setting for the third row passengers. But let's close this up for now and let's talk about this rear end design, because I'm a huge fan of what's going on here. It has a clear connection to the front end. There are a couple of changes I would like to do here, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but we have a lot of horizontal lines. You have the indicators down here, and you have the trend of the decade, which is a full light bar, which in this case I think it looks really good. We don't have a wiper anywhere on the glass. Instead, it's hidden up here. Very nice done, Kia, to not have it be visible here and destroying the clean surface that we have in the back end. I also like this chamfer that we have going down here and housing the license plate holder. A lot of manufacturers don't really think about the license plate, and in some cases it just feels like they just stuck a license plate on top of a surface that wasn't dedicated to house it. So Kia had that in mind when they created this beautiful line here. So there are a couple of redesigns I would like to do in the rear end, and that has mostly to do with the taillights. In the front end we have some nice curvatures, not curvatures, but angles to the daytime running lights. Here it's pretty static, so I want to try and figure out if we can play around a little bit with the taillights of the Carnival to have them feel a little bit more dynamic than what we have here. I do like the integration of it in the overall body, and I also like the internal pieces of the taillights, but having some sort of different thicknesses in different areas of the taillights I think is going to add some more automotive feel to this design. Welcome to the interior of the 2023 Kia Carnival. So what do we have here? We have a 12.3-inch infotainment screen. We have analog gauges in this version for the tachometer and the speedometer, with a small little display in the middle to show you whatever you want to see in the middle. I like this integration because look at this. We have something really cool here. First of all, let's have a look at the integration of these screens. I love that it's curves here. It feels like they actually put some effort into designing the corners, the end points of this screen. We have some curvatures and radiuses here. And this piece, this is absolutely genius. If you're gonna have two screens like this, or a big dash that stretches across the entire top of the dashboard, add a small cap like we have in the Kia right here. This creates a housing for the gauge cluster. If this was all digital, it would be a lot easier to see what's going on by having just this cap up top. Moving down to the section that's underneath the infotainment screen, we have some very easily adjustable vents which have some weight to them, surprisingly. It feels super high quality when you just adjust these. I like that. You have some touch pads here similar to what we have in the EV6 I reviewed a while back. You have the start button in the same line, and you have tactile buttons for the climate control down here. Very easy and intuitive to use. Touchscreen buttons for the fan speed, and you can put it in auto if you want, of course. I'm gonna just manually adjust it down a little bit, turn the AC on because it's pretty hot today in Colorado. Moving further down in this location right here, we have a one wireless charger, and we have a couple of USB ports and other connections for your devices. Moving on to the center console, we have two cup holders here, pretty standard, and this gear shifter feels also very much standard, and I don't mind that at all. It has some leather wrapping around it, looking pretty nice. The drive mode button is right here by the gear selector, and you have normal, eco, sport, or smart, and you have the parking brake here as well. In the silver piece, you have the settings for the heated seats. This specific one does not come with the cool seats, but it is an option for the Carnival. You also have the button for the cameras. By pressing the center button, you have the backup camera, but no 360 view in this specific Carnival. Moving further back in the center console, you have a big armrest with some pretty big compartment for the storage in the center. No connectivity in here. There are no ports or anything like that. It's just a empty bin with some storage in front of it, and you have two cup holders back here as well. Looking at these seats, looking pretty standard, but they do have some bolstering to it, which I think looks aggressive for a minivan. But I'm not complaining because they actually hug you well when you're going around the corners. Overall, I like what's going on in here in the front end. We have some nice textures, some nice wood trim in combination with the leather and hard plastic up top. Physical button for whatever you need. The main controls the radio, climate. And looking at the steering wheel, also a very beautifully designed steering wheel. They put some effort into making it look nice with different trim levels on the side here. To the right, you have the controls for the cruise control, and to the left is all the buttons for the radio settings. Not so sure about this high gloss black trim that we have inside here. I would want to have that be more matte. To the left of the steering wheel, you have another vent, and you also have the buttons for the lane assist and the traction control, and the buttons for the doors. So you can operate the doors and the trunk from the buttons down here. You don't have a sunroof in this minivan up here, but it doesn't bother me that much because I'm not, as you know, I'm not a huge fan of it. You have a pretty normal sized visor with a mirror in it for the driver and the passenger. And last but not least, you have a proper sized glove box. With that said, let's have a look at the second row and what's going on back there. If I can fit behind myself. I think I can. I'm pretty sure I can, since this is a minivan. Both sides on this Kia Carnival have these very cool sliding doors. Usually it's just on one side, but not in this case. So jumping in here, and obviously I have tons of space. There's a huge leg room for me and huge headroom as well. Up here you have a camera, so you can check the passengers by clicking the camera button up front, and you have the camera mounted here, so you can see what the kids are doing in the back. You also have a separated climate control settings up here in the roof. I've never seen that before, but it's a pretty good location for it. It doesn't take up any space down here, and you have a 12-volt outlet in the middle of the armrest in the back seat. You also have a small little armrest for these two captain's chairs that you have in the middle. We've had a look at the exterior design of the Kia Carnival. We had a look at the beautiful interior. Now it's time to take this for a short drive. Alrighty guys, taking the 2023 Kia Carnival EX for a drive. So what do we have under the hood? We do have a V6 3.8 liter with 290 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque, which feels pretty good for a minivan. And we also have front-wheel drive only in the Carnival, which could be a problem for some people depending on where you live. 0 to 60 in about 7 seconds. And it's connected to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and it feels very smooth. I have it in sport now. Let's just put it in eco, for example, and let's see how that is. I like the layout of minivans because you have such good visibility up front. You can see exactly what's in front of you with no problems at all. No big hood or anything like that sticking out. So the visibility in here is absolutely fantastic. And this being a minivan, it feels very classy in here. Kia has definitely stepped it up the last 10 years or so in their interior quality. It feels high-end almost in here. And my favorite piece of the interior is, of course, that we have a cap for a setup like this. It's not that hard to do. This is all I'm asking for. Just add a bit of a cap to the gauge cluster and everything is all good. So let's pop it back into sport. And let's step on it here, and just to see what this V6 can do. Actually sounds pretty good. It is a V6. You can make V6s sounds fantastic if you want to. And this really sounds decent for a minivan. It's actually pretty fun to drive this thing. In the corners, it feels good, and I like these seats. As I said before, they have some pretty aggressive, I would say, bolstering for a minivan, but now when you're driving it on a curvy road like this, it kind of makes sense. Big thanks to Foundation Kia here just outside of Denver. If you're interested in this Carnival or any car they have on the lot right here, just go to foundationkia.com and make sure you ask for Cameron. He's going to help you out, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.